Wow, this would be a nice place to do a State of the State address. How's everybody? Good. Very nice to see all of you. Thank you, Jason. As I look out on the room, it's amazing how extremists come in different sizes and shapes. It's wonderful to see everybody. You know, I can't think of a better name for today's program than Liberty on the Line. Because liberty is indeed on the line in the Empire State today, but so are you. And that's the good news. You're out on the front lines in Albany this week and across the state, and every New Yorker should appreciate your efforts, whether they agree with all or some of your positions or none of them. Secularism and so-called progressivism know no bounds among the political left in New York anymore. They want it all. They want to take away every one of your freedoms. We have to push back. I was thinking about last night what I would say here this morning. The first words that popped into my head were, where do I start? And I mean, really, where do we even begin with something like this? We have so many challenges in this state and all the wrong solutions, if you can call them that. The one thing that I learned over the last several years is that you can never underestimate the propensity of government to make things worse, especially state government. Ever hear the story of the husband who kisses his wife, heads off to the eye doctor? She pops on the TV about a half hour later, and there's a special bulletin, breaking news on the screen. So she rushes to the phone. She calls her husband. Honey, you're not on the thruway, are you? Because the man on the news says that someone's driving 75 miles an hour going the wrong way. I am, dear. I am on the thruway. But I'm afraid it's much worse than this. There are hundreds of them driving the wrong way. Well, you know what? That's how I feel in New York sometimes. You know, yesterday, I marched in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York City. Yep. I think you know about that parade, right? It's the one on Fifth Avenue, and it's been going on for 253 years. The one with 250,000 marchers and 1 million+ onlookers. And I thought everybody knew about the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade. But apparently, Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio couldn't find it. No statewide or citywide elected official could. And that is shameful. I was the only candidate for statewide office marching in the oldest parade in the nation yesterday because our statewide elected officials and citywide elected officials somehow forgot that religious liberty counts for something too. So what I saw yesterday was an unforgivable snub to New York's Irish community as well as their Catholic community by both Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo, and I hope it won't soon be forgotten. And by the way, I know yesterday was St. Patrick's, so all you Irish, congratulations. Tomorrow is St. Joseph's Day, by the way, for those of the Italians in here, so don't forget that either. You know, here in Albany, Governor Cuomo's big progressive issue is whether to expand abortions into the 9th month of pregnancy for virtually any reason. Boy, that's just what we need, right? New York is already considered the abortion capital of America. Almost 40% of pregnancies are terminated every year in New York City. 60% of African Americans in the community, 60% of the pregnancies are terminated. And Governor Cuomo wants more abortions later in pregnancies. Now look, I get it. Abortion has been legal in New York State for 44 years. Roe v. Wade for 41 years. But whatever happened to safe and rare? Not with this governor. The governor, in his infinite progressive wisdom, even wants to allow non-doctors to perform abortions in New York. Non-doctors. Think about that for a minute. How does that make any woman safer? And then there's the SAFE Act, which is a total misnomer. The SAFE Act made no one safer in New York. All it did was make criminals out of law-abiding citizens and law enforcement officials, too. So it gave Governor Cuomo what he needed, what he wanted, and that was a couple national headlines. But the SAFE Act was one of the worst thought-out laws in modern New York history. And that's saying something, by the way. I started getting calls literally from Westchester County police departments and our own county cops the day after Governor Cuomo pushed through that shoddy legislation. You know, in his haste, the governor forgot to exempt law enforcement officers from his arbitrary 7-bullet limit, which, by the way, was struck down as unconstitutional by a federal judge. Seems like a big oversight, huh? So here's what we did in Westchester. We didn't rush this through. And here's how it happened. So the day that the tragedy occurred in Newtown, Connecticut, which, by the way, is very close to my home. It's about 30 minutes away, maybe a little more. But Westchester County borders Connecticut, so it's very, very close. The day it happened, which was a Friday, I remember driving around in our car, we were going to events, and hearing this on the radio. And I was shaken to the core because I have 3 kids, 10, 9, and 4. And I remember getting back to the office and just slumping in my chair watching the news and how hard it hit me. So we canceled all of our events that night and throughout the weekend because I just wanted to go home and hug my kids. And that night, we were at dinner, and there was no way to shield the kids from what was happening on TV or what they were hearing. So the kids started asking me, "Daddy, what do I do if a shooter comes into my school?" I was taken aback, and my son said to me, "I think I would try to escape." And then my 9-year-old daughter said, "I think I would try to play dead or hide. Which is right?" Are you kidding me? I have no idea which is right. But it got me thinking, what can I do as a parent to keep my own children safe? But what should I do, if anything, as county executive in Westchester to make our communities safer? And so we thought about this. We didn't rush something in overnight. We thought about this. And so what did we do? We had Police Commissioner Bill Bratton speak. We had all of law enforcement in Westchester, including federal, all the educators, public, private, and parochial schools. And we worked on how do we make our buildings and campuses safer. What happens in an incident like this? And then 2 months later, we talked about the real problem, and that's the breakdown in the mental health community. And this has been a fascinating discussion, leading to some really good goals and outcomes. And we just had one other one last week. And it's staggering to think that 20% of 13 to 18-year-old youths, 20%, will have a debilitating mental illness at some point in their childhood. How do we recognize this? How do we deal with it? We know what happens if a child falls down. We have a first aid kit. We put a Band-Aid on his or her scrape. What happens if a child has a mental health breakdown that could lead to violence, or lead to drugs, or lead to a life that will turn out to be bad? That's what we're tackling in Westchester, with our schools and with our mental health community, with our religious, with our nonprofits. That's real. That's making our communities safer, and that's going to be long-lasting. So there's a difference between the way the governor and I handled this same kind of situation. But in all of these cases, anyone disagreeing with the governor has been classified an extremist. And this is the language, unfortunately, of the new American left. If you disagree with them, you are the enemy. You are extreme. Under Mario Cuomo, people were allowed to argue ideas based on their merit. People were allowed to disagree without being called extremists, but not under this governor. In one fell swoop, Andrew Cuomo told millions of New Yorkers of faith and conscience that they are no longer welcome here. Again, never underestimate the propensity of this government or this governor to make things worse. New York leads the nation in outmigration. Almost 400,000 New Yorkers have left this state since Andrew Cuomo has been governor, and millions of more he would like to have leave. Under Governor Cuomo, New Yorkers pay the highest taxes in the nation, and he raised taxes again. It's not even close. Under Governor Cuomo, we are dead last 50th in business friendliness, and he's added more business regulations, chased away more businesses. Under Governor Cuomo, we have the second highest utility rates in America, and he won't allow clean natural gas exploration. And under the democratic culture of corruption, we have the most corrupt government in America in these buildings here. and Governor Cuomo blatantly protected Shelley Silver from investigation over sexual assaults here in Albany. You can't make this stuff up, but it has to end. So I'm asking every New Yorker a very simple question. As a state, are we winning or are we losing? And to me, the evidence points that we are losing. We are last in all the wrong categories. Last. Can you imagine that? New York, the Empire State, dead last in all the wrong categories. And there was a time when we wouldn't settle for second place, let alone 50th. You know, Alabamians used to say, thank God for Mississippi, because Mississippi always ranked below Alabama in all the wrong categories. Now, every other state is saying, thank God for New York. That's an embarrassment. What makes me really cringe, though, is the thought that if we don't turn New York around in a real way, if we don't get it on the winning path again, my 3 children may very well pack up and leave New York when they're older, just like so many other young people have, or so many of the young people here today will. And it's a real possibility. How many more New York grandmas and grandpas are going to watch their grandchildren show up and grow up on Skype or FaceTime? A lot of those seniors are back to work, by the way, after being retired. You've probably noticed that. You go to Home Depot, you go to Walmart, all the seniors working behind the counters now, they wear those thick-soled shoes because their feet hurt, but they have to go back to work to pay their property taxes. That's what losing looks like. 1 in 5 New York City residents are now on some type of food stamps. That's what losing looks like. Things don't have to be this way. Things can turn around. We can get it back in the winning column again. I know because we've done that in Westchester. We've made Westchester a winning county again. Yeah, we had to ruffle some feathers, absolutely. We had to make hard choices, but so be it. Our fiscal discipline now is reaping the benefits. Government spending in Westchester is less, in real dollars, less today than it was when I walked in the door 4 years ago. We've reduced spending more than any other county. We have the highest credit rating in New York State, higher than the state itself. We've cut or frozen the property tax levy every year I've been in office. That helped attract new businesses, thousands and thousands of new businesses, private sector jobs, where we're one of the lowest, at 5.5%, one of the lowest unemployment rates in all of New York. So this is what needs to be done to get the state back in the winning column again. And it can happen statewide. I was able to win re-election, as was mentioned, in a deep blue county. Westchester's 49% Democrat, 24% Republican. And I was able to get elected the first time by a 15-point margin and just got re-elected by a 13 margin in the home of Bill Clinton and Andrew Cuomo. And I got elected because I kept my promise to deliver change. And I'm proud to say that we received almost 30% of the Democratic vote, 25% of the African American vote, and a majority of the Hispanic vote. And that's important. It's important for our Republican Party, and it's important statewide and nationally that people have options for different ideas. So I came to look each one of you in the eye and tell you about these successes in Westchester, to proudly report that a conservative Republican governing as a Republican and conservative in New York can still win, and still win statewide. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker wrote in his book that you win voters in the middle not by abandoning your principles, because the courage to stand on principles is what these voters really respect. The way to win the center is to lead and deliver results. And that's what we've done in Westchester. That's what needs to be done to make this state a winner again. And I'm here to spread that word. But I know, I don't need to tell you this, you're deep in this fight as well. And I'm proud, and I'm here to tell you, I'm proud to be in this fight with you. And I'll leave you with one last story. January 1st, 2010. We walk in the office for the first time as county executive, just sworn in. And so we bring in all our boxes, and staff is coming in the same day, bringing their boxes in, getting set up in their office. So I'm in my office taking stuff out of the box. And there I have a crucifix about that size. And I put it on a credenza. Now you should have seen the look in that room. Half the people didn't know what to do. You can't do that. You can't do that. The other half said, that's good. That's good. And my response was, that brings me comfort, and I don't know how I'm going to get through the next 4 years without him. And he's been good. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for having me. And I know I can say this in this room. God bless you all. Thank you.